Hello and welcome to Secret Podcasque. I'm Dustin White, and I'm here with a very special guest today. His name is Jeff Mayer. Jeff is here to talk about theories and ideas for the puzzle that most believe there's a casque hidden somewhere in New York. And so that's what we're here to talk about today. Jeff, welcome, and how's it going, man?
It's going really well. I was almost late because of the time difference and, completely forgot that it was an hour ahead. So,
Yeah, well,
been doing pretty well.
Yeah, just a few hours ago, I guess we sprung forward, but we're here right now to chat about The Secret and chat about New York in specific. New York, a lot of people think that was probably the most special of the puzzles to Byron Price, the guy that is responsible for this whole crazy treasure hunt. Did you find any connections to maybe Byron or things that would have made New York special to Byron when you're doing your research?
Not necessarily, and there's a reason for this. One is I believe in separating the art from the artist.
Okay.
I really think like if I was creating a puzzle myself, I wouldn't just go with things that I know. I would stretch myself to find something different that I didn't know. So he obviously had intimate knowledge of New York City because and Brooklyn for living here, but I don't know. I just have this feeling that he's going to show some trickery and not necessarily just give it away for what you'd expect.
Right on. I'm excited to learn more from you about how this puzzle works today, in your opinion. So I guess we'll jump into the slides that you presented or that you've shared with me to get a grasp of your theory. We're looking at the first slide here, and it looks like does everything basically branch off of the Statue of Liberty?
Not necessarily. It was just showing like so many different directions that you can go in, in and around New York. Things that somewhat make fit, but don't necessarily like nail it on the head. Okay. And it seems that you could find validating clues everywhere.
Oh yeah.
So again, the vagueness makes it tough because you can really go into any location in Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, and say, "Oh, that's this." And maybe that's intentional, is, he wants you to cover every single base around New York. And so that's what I'm kind of, approaching this as, is that he wants us to go everywhere.
Okay. Well, I looked through your presentation a little bit, and I can see that we go a lot of places. So do we go to the next slide, or do you have anything else to say about this one?
Yeah, the only thing is, I'm not intending to, provide my theory as to where it's actually located. I'm offering ideas that may stretch a little bit outside the norm of what people, consistently believe. I don't believe in keeping it simple. I think that's a fallacy that we should just ignore. That's preconceived notion that we come up with to create limitations on what we look for. And a lot of this is not going to be in any real specific order. I try to make it in an order, but I'm showing multiple different paths and multiple different ideas that might spark something new that someone else hasn't already thought of and say, "Oh, that actually makes me think of this." Okay. And that's what I really want to go through in this one.
That's all I could ever ask for any guest or just to chat about The Secret to anybody in general. Just keep your mind open, and you never know what falls in your lap when you're looking at anything, any person's idea. It might be just the little piece of the puzzle that was missing. Right. Even if what you explained today, only one little piece would make sense to somebody, what if that's the one piece?
Right.
You never know. And I completely agree with the, don't necessarily keep it simple because, if it was so simple, a lot more of them would have been found by now.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, cool, man. So you want me to go to the next slide?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, take it away. Whatever you want to say about this. We have like an image of the Statue of Liberty on the right and a plaque on the left.
Yeah. So, a lot of people believe that the Statue of Liberty is the Great Giant. Could potentially be. There is the quote on the plaque for the new Colossus, not like the brazen giant of Greek fame. So right there, you have the word giant. We know that the British occupied in New York and during the American Revolution, so the British spelling of gray makes a lot of sense there. But one thing that I found that a lot of people haven't touched on is when you look for the word gray, Grey, in Greek mythology, you find the Grey Sisters or the Grey Witches, which are the three Gorgons, I think that they were, that all share a single eye and a single tooth. And they're the ones that help Perseus kill Medusa, basically give him the location of Medusa.
Yeah,
So
I think they were portrayed as the Fates in the Disney Hercules movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that there is a potential connection there. We also have to think, when you find a clue to something, disassemble it and say, how does this make sense in a different context? Because you're going to look at something and then you're just going to gloss over it if you don't really dig deep into the meaning of a word or what you're looking at. So, one thing that I was looking at was the actual name of the Statue of Liberty is Liberty Enlightening the World. So when you think about shadow, you can't have shadow without light or light without shadow. So those two things are connected, I think.
And that's very poetic. I like that kind of outside the box thinking. A lot of people just take the words for exactly what they are and they don't try to get any deeper meaning. So I can appreciate the work you've done in finding those kind of connections. I like that. That's fun.
Yeah. All right, awesome. Yeah, and one note here that I don't present anywhere else in this slide or in the deck is just the start of the poem is, give me your tired. One of the branches of thought that I was going on, which I haven't really delved deep into, is coffee. It wakes you up. And you have Coffee Park in Brooklyn. So that's just one thing that I'm thinking of as a potential rabbit hole to go down.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I mean, we have to look in lots of places because it hasn't been found yet. So I get it. All right, man. Here's your next slide. You got the Statue of Liberty circled on top of the greater New York area. So.
Yeah, just kind of solidifying the location. I didn't do a lot of map work in this deck, so This is basically all you get.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. All right. So the next thing. So I also think there are multiple different paths that you could take. So this is just one path, which I think is very strong. Is find the arm that extends over the slender path. So I was reading The Great Gatsby, and there's a direct quote that matches this line pretty well. It was on that slender, riotous island, which extends itself due east of New York. So you have two keywords that are in that quote. The Great Gatsby, if you take G and G, that could be Great Giant, right? You have George Gershwin. So again, just thinking of multiple different ways to use this riddle and convert it to meaning. So if Long Island is the slender, riotous island, the arm that extends over it would be the LIE. So that'd be the Long Island Expressway. And there are there is a bridge if you go to Flushing Meadows Park that extends over the LIE as well. But I think that, again, there's a deeper meaning here that we need to find a lie. And that, I think, thematically comes along a lot throughout this riddle that I've actually found, or that I think that I found.
Okay.
And I'm skipping ahead a bit, with a path that I didn't kind of really go through this deck with, but a lot of people believe in Prospect Park in Brooklyn because that's the Holy Grail of Brooklyn in terms of where Byron would potentially bury it. And
Sure.
You have that quote right on the side of the Brooklyn Public Library by Thomas Carlyle: "In books lies the soul of the whole pastime." So again, there's another lie there, which I didn't go down this path, but if you put those two together, now you're starting to see something come along. And then skipping ahead to the very bottom of the verse, you have "or gaze north toward the Isle of B." And if you rearrange the letters of isle, you get lies.
Okay, so it's an anagram, possibly.
Right.
Okay.
Potentially.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you gotta. I just like. I think my mind is going to be like just waking up to a lot of your ideas throughout this because they aren't ideas that I've ever tried to explore, and so I thank you for allowing or putting this forward to open my mind. Um, I like the anagram. I like the Long Island Expressway. That's pretty fun. And the Great Gatsby quote. That's pretty close. That's pretty good. It's got the key elements of the part of the verse from it. So, and the GGs. I don't know. Like literally, my mind is like being woken up to a lot of this stuff. So, yeah, I'm just replying kind of in real time because it's something I haven't thought a lot about, but it's interesting. Great Gatsby, Great Giant, Gershwin, love it.
Yeah, and I like to stress. So a lot of these things, people will make fun of, which I'm cool with, but I just want to present these ideas again, like as something just different.
Well, I mean, I wish people wouldn't put down other people's ideas, no matter how far-fetched they think they are, because I mean, maybe Brian Zinn can do that, maybe, I guess, but he wouldn't do it because he's, above that kind of thing. Maybe Rob in Chicago can do it, but he wouldn't do that either.
Right.
They all support everybody. I think we should all just support ideas because if you don't like it, just scroll by. It's not a big deal. If it might give somebody that nugget that we were talking about at the beginning of this episode, just if it gives someone that little nugget that gets them over a finish line, great. All these people that say no, they don't have casques, so whatever.
Right. Yeah. And I've done improv for a very long time, so my thought process is yes and. Mm-hmm. So I'll take someone's idea and say, and I might not reply to their post, but I'll start digging into it myself. Say, all right, let me explore this. Let me exhaust this as far as I can take it. If it leads nowhere, then I can reject it or challenge it. But I'm not going to challenge it as my first option. That's not the goal.
I love that, man, because that just tells me that you're trying to do even more homework than the person that put the idea out in the first place. So, and you could be helping that person in the end. So it's awesome.
Yeah, great. So we could dig into the next one.
Sure. So is this so you have another map up? Is this showing that Long Island Expressway?
Yeah. So 495 is the LIE. So it obviously runs throughout Queens, Manhattan, and goes into Long Island. So I was just showing a couple different areas on the map, where you hit it.
Cool, man.
So on this guy, again, I'm taking a different approach. There are a million different versions of this line, and I haven't nailed down one. So this is just one of the options.
Okay. So the line that you have highlighted here is, in summer, you'll often hear a whirling sound, cars abound.
Right. I'm thinking, there's something to do with, Russian immigration for New York City. And I don't believe it's necessarily strictly Russian. Again, I'm not fixated on Russia. I'm fixated on the Kingdom of Bohemia in its entirety, which includes Hungary, includes Czechoslovakia, includes Russia, because on that map, on the passage to fair people, sure. I'm getting that wrong, but it's pointing to Hungary, Tartary, Russia, Poland. So there are multiple different countries. So, but gotcha. Anyway, in terms of this aspect of Russia, I'm thinking about the Cold War between Russia and the U.S. So I'm thinking bugs. You have bugs hitting the windshield when you're driving on the LIE. Bugs, make a buzzing sound, when you're out in a park. They're alive during the summer. They're dead in the winter. Mm-hmm. You have a Volkswagen Beetle. Have you ever played punch buggy on the road?
I've never heard it called that. We always called it slug bug over in the western part of the United States.
Yeah, no, I'm a punch buggy kind of guy.
Okay, right on.
And then, bugs are obviously listening devices for spies. So, again, thinking about lying, spies, shadow work. Now, that could be a CIA reference. And there's a very famous bug that was presented to the U.S. as a gift in 1945, right after World War II. That was called the Great Seal Bug. And if you take a look at it, and there are images in other books that are historically available before 1982,
Mm-hmm.
it looks a lot like the vertical line in the clock.
Okay. Mm-hmm. It does.
So again, it's not the end all be all of this potential line, but I think this is one version that you could definitely go down, and it's relevant to what I've been talking about.
Yeah, it's also slightly reminiscent of the stem of the flower in the painting, like because it's a really long stem. So yeah, that's cool. I really like the what you're doing with the shadow lies, telling a story with the verse. That's it's all we already said it earlier, but it's poetic. So I like it a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, so the next piece here is although the signs nearby speaks of Indies natives, and you have a slide with a possible, meaning behind that.
Yeah, so when we think about obviously who it is, India's native. If it's the West Indies, if we're talking about Alexander Hamilton, he was born in St. Nevis, sorry. And I'm going to mix up a lot of the things that I say because
it's all good. He was born in the West Indies.
He was born in the West Indies. Anyway, so great. So you have Alexander Hamilton, but what about him? Why is this line important? An India's native is someone from the West Indies. So I'm thinking about their home. So I'm thinking about the home of the India's native. So that could be the Grange, Alexander's home up there. He lived downtown on Broadway in Manhattan. But the West Indies are a bunch of islands also. And Nassau Coliseum, Nassau is in the Bahamas, in the West Indies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the home of the Islanders hockey team. So he was an Islander, and there you go. Like this is one option that I think is very strong, especially if you're going out to Long Island along the path of the LIE. This is one of the locations which Alexander Hamilton exists, or this clue exists. It's not the only one, but it's one of them.
Well, I think that's fun. I mean, Nassau, or how do you pronounce it? Nassau?
Nassau.
Nassau. Yeah, I heard it a lot growing up because I used to love watching professional wrestling, and they would broadcast from the Nassau. Or, how do you pronounce it again?
Nassau, like you saw.
Nassau. Yeah, Nassau Coliseum, and I remember seeing the name always. I never spoke it out loud, but I know. Yeah, it's one of the. Where's it at? Is it in the Bahamas, like the major city in the Bahamas? Yeah. And so I love the symmetry or the connective tissue there. That's really cool.
Right.
Yeah. And so they played it. So the Islanders played it at the Nassau Coliseum.
Right. And now, like, if you just think about that moment, all right, so you have the Islanders, you have the West Indies, which are a bunch of islands, and then you have Manhattan, which is an island. And then you have all the boroughs around the Staten Island. Bedloe Island, Brothers Islands, Roosevelt Island. Maybe we have to go island hopping. Think about it. You may have to go into multiple different locations around Manhattan, and that's where you might be bringing us.
Cool. Fun ideas. All right, so you have more possible connections to the although the sign nearby speaks of Indies native.
Right. Yeah. So another version of this is that Alexander lived, at the Grange, which on the west side of Manhattan. So if he's born in the West Indies, he's a West Sider, right? He's from the West, and New Yorkers constantly say, "Are you an East Sider or a West Sider?" That's the distinction between us living in Manhattan.
Gotcha.
And I do live in New York City, and I've been here for 20 plus years, and I grew up a half hour north, so I hear that term constantly. And then I do a little bit of wordplay on the word cider, and I turn it into cider, the alcoholic drink. And the reason I do that is because Alexander wrote the whiskey tax,
Okay.
which was the first tax enacted after the Revolutionary War, which also caused the whiskey riots.
Mm-hmm.
And cider was, it was the most prominent alcoholic drink before Prohibition, all from colonial times, all through Prohibition 1930. So for a couple hundred years, cider is very important.
Okay.
It's also made out of apples, and New York is the big apple. So there's just a lot of connective tissue right there in terms of thinking West Side cider alcohol.
I appreciate you explaining that because, I live on the West Coast of the United States, and I've never heard anybody called a East Sider or a West Sider or anything like that. So it's good to have someone that's you are a native of the area, and being able to explain that to someone that I've been there twice, but I've never heard that before because I didn't live it, and so that's fun to learn.
Yeah. And, a cool thing about this line is that this could be part of the bookend, if there is one, with San Francisco between East Side, West Side, East Coast, West Coast.
Gotcha.
So I'm just, showing here on the map, how far away from the LIE is the Nassau Coliseum. So we can, skip through this.
Okay. Gotcha.
All right. So this is my favorite one. I did a lot of work on this line, which is the natives still speak of him of hard word in three vowels.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody gets stuck on this one, and everyone has a million ideas. And I would say, hey, maybe 30 of them are right.
Maybe.
And
so what you have written here is it goes with the Japanese hint, right?
Right. So the rhyming with chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's another really interesting slide after this one, or in the next couple ones coming up, where I break that down a little bit. But for what we do know for a fact that Dickens wrote Hard Times and he wrote Household Words. So mashing those two words together could be correct. Hard Times is 3 books: Reaping, Sowing, and Garnering. And that has a little bit of a farming connotation. And once you get, later on to the verse with soil, there's a little bit of a farming aspect to this. Gotcha. But what no one really explores, which I've been pushing on the boards, is Dickens means devil. Before Charles Dickens was alive, what did Dickens mean? What the devil? And it's a common expression, or a common old expression. So when you put the line together, you get speak of the devil. I can
buy that. If it's talking about Charles Dickens and it wants you to play a word game with it to make it something that, is something else, I can definitely see that as a possibility for sure.
Yeah. And then, if you're, let's say thinking about Coney Island, and then you have Still Wells Avenue down in Coney Island, maybe you still speak well of the devil or something to that effect.
Gotcha. All right.
Another interesting thing about Charles Dickens was he was in a club with Henry Longfellow and a few other Harvard alumni that called themselves the Five of Clubs. So when we say are there or are there not clues in the back of the book, well, there is a Five of Clubs right there on page 112,
and it does certainly stand out, doesn't it? Because the other cards that are shown is an ace of spades, a 2 of spades, a 3 of spades, a 4 of spades, and a 5 of clubs. So that's pretty good.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that there's any text in Damon Runyon or Dam Runyon, that applies elsewhere to this, but maybe there is something that we could take a look at with this. Maybe 4 spades are important. Who knows?
Maybe.
The other aspect of this line that I dig into a lot is about prohibition.
Okay.
whiskey was often referred to as the devil's brew. Right. So if we're speaking about the devil,
so that would be another connection back to Hamilton.
Hamilton, the whiskey tax, and then break apart all the words or the keywords in this line. Still, New York City's nickname was City on a Still. There were more than 100,000 bars or something crazy. I don't know, some insane number of bars, and you distill alcohol. The term native, if you look it up, is called a demonym. So right there, you have demon in like the word for a native.
Okay.
During Prohibition, you have speakeasies, still speak. You have hard alcohol, hard word. Alcohol is measured in volumes. You have 3 vols. And if you do any history or research on the Volstead Act, that was a precursor to Prohibition, which had 3 distinct purposes about the sale or consumption of alcohol.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
And then a little side note here is, again, kind of bringing this back, like, how does this apply to anything else? Where is this leading? I was, reading Animal Farm, which is obviously about the Russian Revolution, and the laws that the pigs wrote or the animals wrote. Number 5 is no animal shall drink alcohol. And I'm not saying that the 5 of clubs has anything to do with Law 5, but maybe.
I've never even heard of these 7 commandments before.
It all comes down to 4 legs good, 2 legs bad.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting.
All right. Then if we join those 2 lines or those 2 thoughts from Hamilton and Dickens together, and we mash them together, you get the word speak twice. You also get the word native twice, but I'm focusing on speaking. And that would be double talk or double speak, lying. So, again, there's a connection there. And there's a famous speech by Judge Noah Sweat called the Whiskey Speech, where he basically gives the argument for and against prohibition or alcohol in the same exact speech. And it was basically half the audience applauded him on one side and half the audience applauded him on the other side. And it was a very famous speech. So that's really interesting about how the term came up, double speak. It's about whiskey. And his name, Sweat, you sweat in summer. So just another loophole, rabbit hole that you could go down.
Yeah, but it's fun. I like that. I love the double speak and how they're right there next to each other. That's pretty fun. So, yeah, I just think this gives people okay. If nothing else, I think you're are giving people the okay to look at these things a little differently than they have in the past. Because I've read this verse, I don't know, 2,000 times. I don't know, maybe more. And I've never really thought about speak being, right there next to each other, or, right one right after another almost, and thinking it could be a double speak clue. I mean, that's pretty fun.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So this is where it kind of gets exciting, I think. And so the third aspect of, this whole thing with the Japanese clue is, again, when we read the Japanese clues, we have to remove what the Japanese publisher was indicating and really just, isolate what he was saying that Byron Price quoted.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to do a wordplay and start with chicken. That's the only line in that clue that is specific to what Byron said in the clue. So if we have Charles Dickens as the answer for this clue, he's from England. And one of the ways that you speak in English in England is with a Cockney accent. Right? So
Yeah.
I was thinking about Cockney rhyming scheme. So if you take the start with chicken and it's a word play and it's British, let's think about Cockney in saying, how do you get from chicken to something else? So you get chicken dickens, and then there's a slang term called dicky bird, which means word. So hymn of hard word, again, you have word, and there happens to be a Dickey Avenue in Staten Island.
Close to a park. Turns into a park, it looks like.
Yeah, so that's the Westerly Park, and it's spelled like Lee, like Leigh.
Okay.
There's a park above this called the Northerly Park, and then further south of this, there's like this little bookstore and temple. But the really interesting about Westerly Park and connecting all this to alcohol and lying and all this stuff is this was called Prohibition Park. Every single street in this area is named after all the leaders of Prohibition or the cities and states which enacted Prohibition or were part of the temperance movement. So there's a lot of history in this specific area about Prohibition. Okay. So I got the fuzzies when I found this. And I'm like, holy shit. I think I'm onto something here. Yeah, so this is, one of the more recent finds, which I'm excited about.
Yeah, forgive me for being quiet sometimes, but I'm trying to take it in.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, that's it would if you're already looking at that kind of stuff, and then you come across a park that's basically Prohibition Park. That's got to be a big hey, look at me kind of moment. Yeah. So
and it could be confirmation bias. The reason why I don't think it's confirmation bias is over the next couple slides.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, let's see what the next slide says.
Okay. So this is St. Paul's Bookstore, which is right below Westerly Park. There's this walkway that's like a cement walkway. It's kind of a bridge. And if you take a look at this thing, it looks exactly like the first panel box in the painting. Like it is just there. And the image on the right of the panel box, I didn't flip that around. That's how it looks. All the other parts of the walkway and the image below it, those are upside down. But it's that, to me, again, said, holy crap, I found something here. Yeah.
That's pretty dead on. Like what we're seeing is the rectangular structure that, if you look toward the left side of the painting, kind of following the woman's gaze, you see this shape that has like I don't know, like an upside down U framed around like a rectangular structure that has like a red border around it, and it's extremely impressive. It looks just like what you're presenting looks just like what's in the painting.
Yeah. And again, there could be multiple different meanings for this first square. Like I'm not saying like this is the end all be all. Like it could be the UN building, it could be the World Trade Tower, but this, for a version of this match, it's pretty solid.
It looks really good to me. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah. And then there's a little bit more fun image matchery. So this little wayside temple is right next to that bookstore.
Okay.
It's pretty hard to get better photos of it.
So is this the same park, what is it?
Westerly
Park.
It's about like 5 blocks below it.
Okay.
And yeah, so like if you take one of the streets, like it'll lead right from Westerly down to this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, this little church here, the colors are big. Like, look at me, arrow.
Yeah,
pretty impressive.
So taking a zoomed up look at it, and you take a look at the head of the chrysanthemum in the painting. That thing is leaning exactly like whatever that shape is in the panel of the mosaic.
Yeah.
That again, I wish I had better pictures of this. I wish I could, get to this place soon. I don't know what that image is at the top of it. It looks a little bit like a horse. I'm not sure.
Yeah, don't know. I mean, if it's a horse, what the heck could it be doing?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could be a flower, but just like the way that the stem is curved, and then you have those little, flower petals hanging off of it, just like the way that they're kind of curved or bent, looks pretty similar to how the petals in the chrysanthemum are bent.
Yeah, that's pretty. I like that a lot, and it just the colors that are all around this thing are really really good, and the shapes because of the mosaic, the tiles, right?
Right.
I mean, they really lend to all the little bubbles, so it's pretty compelling stuff. I like it a lot.
Yeah, yeah, the purple matches up. That like burnt red color matches up. The light blue matches up. Even the yellow in the chalice matches up underneath the burnt red. So those two, panels kind of really speak to each other. There could.
I don't think I've ever seen better colors on anything as far as like a match to something with the secret. It could be all like random and not connected, but I mean, if it is, this is pretty good random find.
Yeah. Like if everything I said up to this point is a coincidence, like I'm crazy. Like
yeah. I mean, look at that. The colors are almost spot on, so it's pretty good.
Yeah. Now, here's the caveat. Like, please do not dig here. I don't think that this is the location where the casque is. I think this is just leading down one of the paths that we find, and this is the aha, you found something. You're right about your idea.
Hey, what was the name of this church again?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
It's
Westerly Park.
It's near Westerly Park. I think it's called Alba, ALBA, Wayside Church.
Okay.
The St. Paul's bookstore is where this is located.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, I love the colors. And look at that. Here's a close up of it, and the colors look really, really good. So nice find.
Oh, thank you. I wish the hands were a little bit closer to her hands, but it's good enough, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be. Not everything has to be meaning for one spot. So I like it.
And there's words on the book. I don't know if you caught that.
Oh, are there? What does it say? I can't see it.
My words and spirit, or our spirit and life. My words are spirit and life. The word
became flesh.
Gotcha. So again, you got a hard word.
It is. Absolutely. That's cool. All right. What's this here? Like we got some kind of courtyard with a bunch of statues around?
This is right next to the church. This is part of the church grounds. So there are, I don't know how many of these are, and I don't know what they're called. I'm not Catholic. But, when you take a look at the blue and the shape of the painting, and then all these figures, in these little markers, like that's, again, very strong for the shape of the painting. So there's maybe 20, maybe more of these things. I don't know the history about the saints. I don't know who's here. I'll have to go to this church and explore it, but it's a kind of pain in the ass to get to because it's in Staten Island and no one wants to go there.
Well, it sounds like you need to make a special trip to Staten Island because this warrants further, at least, exploration.
Yeah. And it's not easy to get to, so it's not like right off the ferry. Like you have to, take a cab or something because, I don't know. There's a bus that goes around in this area.
Sure.
But
it's cool. Like, I mean, what if you go into this little courtyard and you see the exact, like a figure, just like the painting, and it's like, hey, dig behind me. That's it.
Right. Yeah, it could be. I'd be shocked that he would put something in like a holy place.
Yeah.
But hey, we have no idea.
It's very park-like setting, so it's not. It doesn't look like it's just like a. I mean, I don't know because I haven't been there and I haven't seen what all the grounds look like, but this looks like a park-like setting. So
yeah.
very, very interesting stuff. I like it.
And then this is where I kind of go off the rails, and I don't think I have anything as strong, but hopefully there's something in here. But I was thinking about bookends.
Mm-hmm. San Francisco, New York.
San Francisco, New York. And so if we're thinking about him of hard word on the West Coast, aspect of this, and then you have potentially the profile of JFK. Who knows? In the rocks of San Francisco. So you have JFK. If we're thinking about the devil and West Coast, the Grateful Dead are a San Francisco band, and they wrote the song "Friend of the Devil." Again, I'm going deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole. A couple of lines from the song "Friend of the Devil" is, "He took my $20 bill and he vanished in the air." So I thought the word "vanished" was kind of interesting, with the vanishing, and $20 bill, that refers maybe to Andrew Jackson. And then later on, you have the second one is "Prison Babe, the Sheriff's on my trail." So I think of like "I Shot the Sheriff" by Bob Marley. I don't know, like that's where my head goes.
Gotcha.
But so if this is all correct in some way, Andrew Jackson is the person that wrote the Indian Removal Act, which was the Trail of Tears.
Yeah.
And in the painting, we have 3 potential teardrops.
Yeah, sure.
So I think that could be strong enough to, again, explore further that there's something about the Trail of Tears, Andrew Jackson, or Jackson, somewhere that we have to look at. And then if we're thinking about Bob Marley and "I Shot the Sheriff," he was born in Jamaica, and you have Jamaica Queens. Like it's a location, and it's in the Indies. It's in the Bahamas. It's it's kind of all circling back around to Indies native could be Bob Marley.
Okay. Could also point to Queen the band with Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh yeah.
Your Bohemian is like one of your focuses here, and I know we briefly touched on Gershwin earlier, and I think we're going to later, but I mean, this could be a lot of connections there. So.
And I think kings and queens are important to this, and that could be something like a chess reference.
Gotcha.
But and I didn't go down the rabbit hole of queens, but there's a whole lot of stuff that I have beyond this presentation.
Yeah. Hey, also right next to the San Francisco painting, that rose there. I mean, it looks the Grateful Dead have a rose that looks just like that on a few of their albums too.
Yeah. Oh, and one more thing on the San Francisco painting. Sorry.
Sure.
The very top of the San Francisco painting, where you have the arch gate.
Yep.
That looks a lot like Hell Gate Bridge in New York. It's also a repetitive pattern for these paintings. But if you take a look at the window of Hell Gate Bridge, again, devil, hell, and there's a gate there in the painting, that could potentially be Hell Gate Bridge. The other really interesting thing about this image is if you turn it sideways where that gate is, it looks a lot like the bottom of New York State. So it looks like New York State is in the negative space right below that gate, where you have the tip of New York on like the western tip of New York at the very bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I can imagine it.
if you line it up to like a map, I should have put it on one of these slides. It works out pretty well.
Yeah, that's cool.
Another thing is, for those people that are looking at John Paul Jones Park near the Verrazano, if you go back to stuff.
That's my favorite.
So if you look at the right side of the San Francisco painting in the negative space, that looks a hell of a lot like a cannon in blue. Right? That could be part of the Rodman Cannon that's right there in Cannonball Park. And then the pearl right in the middle of her chest there, that could be a cannonball. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? But I love John Paul Jones Park. I've been there twice. Dug some holes.
Nice. Bring it back.
Someday.
Let's see. So, going back to kind of like the Andrew Jackson Trail of Tears. So, I did some research. There's a few different Andrew Jackson things in Manhattan, but there's also Jackson Heights in Queens. And I think that this is probably like a better area to explore. I want to kind of dig through this area a bit more, learn more about its history and the parks there. But it's right by the LIE. It's very close to Flushing Meadows Park. So maybe there's a Trail of Tears that starts in Jackson Heights that you have to go through.
Gotcha. Okay. Fun ideas. All right, so now you got us doing some math.
Yeah. So take twice as many e-steps as the hour or more. So I hate this line. This is probably like the worst one because it's from where? Really
hard to know. From the middle of the V.
Right. So it's a tough one because until you know where that V is, or you're never going to solve this. But I think take twice as many e-steps as the hour or more is also a riddle. I'm kind of heading back in the direction of Animal Farm. I think there's a lot in that book that sparks ideas for this puzzle.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of stuff, but one line in it after they sing the song "Beasts of England" says, "Even the stupidest of them had already picked up the tune. Even the stupidest." And in the book, right before the Litany of Jewels, the last line before the litany is, "Every fairy, even the stupidest goblin among them, knew by heart the Litany of Jewels."
I think you nailed that one, dude.
Yeah. So I think Animal Farm has something to do with the New York solution in some way. I have some crazy out there ideas, which I didn't get to, but maybe we'll talk if we have time at the end of this. But hey, maybe the e-steps are 4 legs and not 2 legs.
That's a very interesting thought. Could be, but I think if nothing else, you found where the inspiration of the just right before the Litany of the Jewels came in. That's pretty good stuff.
Yeah. And sorry, can we go back to that one slide? Sorry. What we do know about the clock in the painting is that it's in a square, like Times Square, right? So maybe we have to square, and there on a square there are 4 sides. So maybe we have to square the number in some way. But the hour is 11 times 2 is 22 times 4 legs, 88 steps. So that's one option, is that there's an 88 somewhere. And then if we go to the next slide, thinking about, again, the puzzle, this the painting or New York is November, the month of November, and that's the time. And Armistice Day is the 11th hour of the 11th day on the 11th month. And those are 3 11s. So that's more than twice. So that could be 33. Now, I don't know if you multiply or add, but I would say 33 is a very strong potential for this line. The other thing, which I didn't get into with this line, is the reason why or more is on a second line. Maybe we're looking for something with 6 columns, where there are 4 columns in one row and 2 columns in another row, because otherwise it would all be on the same line or take 3 times as many hours.
Yeah. I think that or more should bother everybody.
Right. Yeah. So the or more, maybe you have the 2 11s, one line, 11 on another line, and then that's visually what you're going to see somewhere. If you take a look at Prospect Park and the Botanical Garden and the Greek pillars there at the Botanical Garden, you see it. So there are 4 pillars on one end of the park and 2 pillars at the entrance of the park. So interesting stuff.
Yeah, and that looks like 1 1 1 1 1 1. So that's pretty good.
And then Eastern, I was thinking about Russian Victory Day Parade.
Mm-hmm.
So Eastern Bloc Steps, Victory Day Parade, and right next to that church that I found is Victory Boulevard. Like that's the street that runs right next to that church.
Gotcha. That's pretty interesting stuff. That's I don't know. I'm taking it in. That's pretty good. I like it. Oh, and here's
So here's the Alba Wayside Shrine and the St. Paul's Bookstore, and this is Victory Boulevard. So I think that or more could also be a victory lap. So something winning a contest, something there. You might be on a parade route, and then you have the parade grounds at Prospect Park as well. You have the Canyon of Heroes, which is a parade route. Or the Thanksgiving Day Parade, by Macy's, that's a parade route.
Sure.
So a victory lap could match all those things.
It's good to think about. All right, now you got from the middle of one branch of the V.
Yeah, so I don't think V is a V in the sense that we're thinking about it. I don't think it's the shape that we're going to see in the ground. I don't think it's just a path that goes left and right. It could be, but a V is a fork, like a fork in the road. And if I'm bringing around lying, devils, whiskey, all this stuff, and I think of the devil's fork, devil's speak, the devil's tongue. So that's what I think that the V is representing, some type of fork. And you have the impossible trident, which is known as the devil's tuning fork. So again, if we're thinking about the columns of Take Twice as Many Steps as the Hour or More with 6 columns, maybe there's some sort of optical illusion that you can create by standing in a certain place where there are columns. And in Prospect Park, you do have that Greek, I forget what it's called, but it's at the very south of the park where you have all these columns, where maybe you can create a devil's fork by looking at it a certain way.
I'm trying to find out the name of that section.
Like not Pericles, but something something.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's right next to the parade grounds of Prospect Park. I don't know.
It is. Let's see if I got it. The peristyle.
Oh yeah. Okay, I see it.
Yeah, and then I remember doing some research on the etymology of peristyle.
Mm-hmm.
And what does peri mean? I think like peri is something about the fallen.
Trying to pull up an image of it now so I could show. There we go. This is what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, that might not necessarily be the one, but that's just again for those Prospect Park fans of a parade ground, victory route, victory lap, Devil's Fork, something there.
Okay.
Again, going off the rails a bit. So I know that the bottom of the dress matches, like the subway line pretty well on subway map. But everybody wants to say, hey, Byron was Jewish, so he's got to have something Jewish in here. I'm Jewish, but I don't necessarily think so. But maybe there is. So if you take a look at the Jewish alphabet and kind of like the vowel system, you have something called the Sharuk down at the bottom, which is a curved line with a dot to the left, and that is the closest alphabet aspect in Judaism to what's in the painting.
Okay. It looks pretty close.
Yeah,
I can imagine.
Yeah, so then you have like the shuruk, which is actually it's three diagonal lines going from left to right, from up to down. So that also looks like a dice, but so I think that you have the three dots, you have three vowels, you have this image of shuruk, which is three diagonal lines. There is probably something to this that I haven't found yet. This could be potentially like when you're in a park. Things that are lined up like three light posts that are lined up in a diagonal line. So that's what I'm thinking of in mapping this out in my head of where I would dig. I would look for three things that probably line up straight in a row.
Gotcha.
The other, again, I don't know if I'm going too far into this, but if you draw a line from the V to the V in the verse, you get Vav. And that's the letter that this is, Vav.
Gotcha. Okay. That's that's interesting.
I came up with this like a day before I showed it to you, so who knows?
Yeah. Hey, well, it's worth looking into. I mean, it's worth thinking about, even if it's just like, oh, okay, then move on with your life. It's I don't know. The shape looks remarkably alike, so I wouldn't discount it completely, right?
So there's a little more information on the letter, and what I'll do is like I'll download this as like a PDF and I'll post this to the group so everybody can kind of look through the slides and read through it.
Gotcha. Sounds good. Yeah. Right now we're looking look down and see simple roots in Rhapsodic Man's Soil.
Yeah. So if we're talking about Gershwin, we're looking for Gershwin. I think we're looking for Rhapsody in Blue. Mm-hmm. The soil is blue, or the man is blue, but we know that the song from Gershwin is Rhapsody in Blue. Yeah. And if we're taking a look at all the information that we've kind of gone along with Prohibition, we take a look at the history of blue laws, which is New York City banning liquor sales on Sunday. Now, blue laws were basically proposed by the church. So you have a blue church laws. That's kind of how I see this as one of the options.
That's fun too, because we know from seeing the original painting that church wasn't there, and that could have easily been something Byron just inserted to be like, hey, this is something that'll help.
Yeah. I have a whole like rebus for that top panel thing that's goes crazy, but maybe we'll get to it if we have time, but maybe not. But with the blue onion domes, I think that you have to peel back the layers of an onion. So there's a lot of different meanings.
Very fun.
We can go to I think the next one. Look down and see simple roots in Rhapsodic Man's Soil. One of the options is if I'm thinking about the Trail of Tears, and the painting has 3 teardrops. These are droplets. 3 droplets are triplets, and triplets are notes or simple roots in music. And 3 is a theme for a lot of things that I've found in the verse. So you have the shuruk, 3 dots, triplets. Again, maybe we're looking for 3 things, simple roots.
Sure. Yeah, fun. Triplets. Yeah, I played trumpet in a band back in high school. Played many triplets in my day.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fun. I mean, why not consider it, right?
This goes in a completely different direction than everything that we've kind of. These slides aren't necessarily in order or all part of the same theme, but this is one that I found really interesting. So AI Root wrote a book, The ABCs and XYZs of Bee Culture.
Okay.
AI Root was in Roanoke Island during the Wright brothers' flight. He was the only one that wrote an account of it, I think, or something like that. Of the first flight. So there's probably a lot to uncover here. One, we know that there are a lot of alphabet city street names in Manhattan. There are some in Brooklyn. Simple root could be a beeswax candle. You use beeswax candle in religious ceremonies, church ceremonies. So again, we have the Blue Church, we have the Abla Shrine, where they light candles. Maybe there's something there. But I think there's a lot more to the AI route idea. If you look next to the Verrazano Bridge, you get Fort Weed, and those could be simple routes, weeds, and all those. The shape of that building looks like a hive, like a beehive. So,
Which building's that?
So it's the
Fort
Weed
Reed?
Fort.
Oh, okay.
I'll look it up my maps real quick. But there's something else. Fort Wadsworth, Battery Weed.
Gotcha.
The other
I see.
history about General or Major Wadsworth, he was a member of the Free Soil Party.
Rhapsodic Man Soil. That's fun. That's I never had picked up on that, and that's my area. So, thanks for that.
Oh, yeah.
The next slide we have is a left turn I wasn't expecting.
Yes. A different kind of blue. So blue soil, bluegrass. Kentucky is the bluegrass state. Why not look there? So if we're thinking we have a blue church, let's use the word church. Mm-hmm. And if we're looking down, and you have church and down, you have Churchill Downs.
Sure.
If Brooklyn is the city of churches, why not Winston Churchill? Fun fact that I just learned recently is that his mother was born in Brooklyn. He's half American. There's a plaque on Henry Street, that mentions her, and her being the mother of Winston Churchill.
I'd never heard that before.
Yeah. So I think that this is a strong rabbit hole to get into of Winston Churchill, who is the person who coined the term Iron Curtain.
Oh, well, yeah.
And he said it during a speech when he was invited to speak in America by President Truman, who just so happens to be the 33rd president of the U.S. So, again, twice as many E-steps at the hour or more. So there could be a connection between Churchill and Truman that we have to explore a little bit deeper.
Okay. So when you said 33rd, it just made me think of Freemasonry. And there's probably some connections there too, but I don't know if you have any of that outlined here.
Yeah. I didn't write the thing about Freemasonry, but yes, yeah. There is something. Yeah. So now
we're jumping to Beethoven now.
Yeah. So obviously, we know from the Chicago verse that B is Beethoven, right? Yeah. Why not be consistent in some respect where that's one of the people that we have to look to? Like if you find Beethoven in Chicago, why not look for him in New York?
Sure.
And if we dissect the word rhapsodic, it means to such and songs ode. And Beethoven wrote Ode to Joy. He also wrote Moonlight Sonata. So there is a strong possibility that he's involved in this puzzle. And there's a bust of him in Prospect Park. Really fun fact is Ode to Joy in 1974 was adopted as a national anthem of Rhodesia. So, if we're thinking Greek, Rhodes, Colossus, Statue of Liberty, the Colossus of Rhodes.
Yeah.
Beethoven is pretty strong when you think about it this way.
Very, very fun. I love Ode to Joy. It's such a happy song. Cool. All right. So you have a connection here between New York and Boston as far as the secret goes?
Yes. I think that the Isle of B is definitely something to do with Boston. One, right next to Boston is Rhode Island. And it's also like named after the Isle of, like roads in Greece. That's what Rhode Island is named after.
Oh, gotcha. Yep.
So I'm continuing my lies idea, double speak, double talk, or gaze north toward the Isle of B. We know that, or at least, if you believe me that the Nassau Coliseum has anything to do with this, the word Coliseum is in the Boston verse. But I think what's more important, and if you take the letters in Coliseum and you rearrange them, you can get lies in the middle of that word.
Sure.
What I think is more important in the Boston verse is "in truth be free." If New York is all about lying, I think that last line is pretty important. And we also know from the Boston verse that, and I'm not going to be able to pronounce this, but Thucydides, or how do you pronounce it?
I think it's Thucydides.
All right. So that's Boston, and Xenophon is New York. And we have or gaze north. I think you have to gaze north to Boston. I think that these two are connected in this way. And there could be a much deeper connection between the verse lines, where you can kind of go back and forth between the two and do kind of like a ping pong search, which might give you something as like, twice as many E steps as the hour, or the middle of branch, or it might give you the V if you kind of go through like this riddle hunt. But yeah, I like the truth in lie, or therein lies the truth. Some sort of play on that word.
Well, and we know for a fact that the Thucydides and Xenophon are referencing specifically New York and Boston. So even if this is hard to pick up, you can't deny that that's what that is. So that could be a connection. It's really deep, and like my mind's trying to compute it right now. Like how can that be? But it is. Like, no matter what you think, it is connected in at least one verse. So why not? I wouldn't be so close-minded about considering it for some kind of connection in another. So fun.
And then so the Isle of B. So if we're actually taking a look at the image of Boston, that circular porthole has the moon and a star. And if we're looking at Flushing Meadows as a potential option here, that lines very well with the Unisphere. And I forget what circular lake that is, Flushing Meadows, but the angle in which these two exist and the proportional size is just kind of dead on. And I have, books and maps from the World Fair where you could see this pretty easily without using Google Maps in terms of that proportional viewpoint of this. So, we have that, I think, is a very strong possibility. And there are a few other slides that I didn't take of the Hall of Science. The Hall of Science has this wavy curve, which is a building down on the west side of the park, which matches so closely to the woman's hair in the New York painting. It has that same exact three-wave line. So there's something very strong at the Hall of Science. Also,
I'm looking at this. Them comparing the Boston painting to the fountain at Flushing Garden, and how just the shape of the water looks just the same. Like, that's just hitting me right now. That's pretty good.
In the bottom right-hand side of the Boston painting, you have that cannon and the cannonball. Forefront, you have the cannonball or globe or whatever it is. There's a lot of things going on here that, may match a couple different locations. But really interesting thing about Flushing Meadows Park is you have the Avenue of Africa. So if you are looking down and seeing simple routes, maybe we're looking at Charleston routes, Alex Haley, the book routes.
Okay.
So, the roots of Africa could be something here where that's the V between these two roads could be the V that you're looking for. if you're on the Avenue of Africa, you have some interesting things here. You have the Garden of Meditation, where there's this round, stone engraving with a quote from Sir Francis Bacon on it. Jewish people don't eat bacon, or kosher people don't eat bacon. Animal farm, you have pigs, root and soil. So there's potentially a play on word with Sir Francis Bacon. Then also here used to be a Lithuanian cross, a wayside cross. Okay. And we go from the wayside church to a wayside cross that's Lithuanian. And I think, I hope I have it on this deck, what it says in the next slide. I'm not sure if I popped it in here.
These are the last slides.
So the Lithuanian Wayside Cross embodies ancient pagan symbols and Christian motifs. Thousands of these artistic forms of folk art formerly dotted the countryside today. The godless communist oppressors have destroyed these shrines, but they cannot extinguish the spirit, alcohol, of the courageous Lithuanian people who long be free again. So there's just a few keywords here: dotted, spirit, communist, oppressors, animal farm. It's a wayside cross. We came from the wayside church. I think that this has something to do with it. Whether this is the end spot, who knows?
Be free.
Yeah. And I don't know, if you're able to refresh the deck, but I popped in a couple new slides.
Don't know. I've never used this before, so I can just maybe press the refresh button and maybe that'll do it. Let's see.
We'll see, because I think that I put a new slide 6 and 7 on there, but I don't know if it'll pop in.
Maybe. We'll see.
Cross fingers.
Yeah. So in I don't know, I wasn't expecting to be so educated today. I knew I learned some stuff, but it's a lot to take in. All right. So I see Pinocchio.
Yeah. All right. So lies, we have the lies, LIE. We have the lies of Books and Lies. The devil speak. One fun thing when we think about the Verrazanos is the word nose. Verrazanos, or just N-O, don't lie. So I think that the Verrazano has some aspect to that in terms of the clue.
Okay.
Then you also have George Washington, who, Father, I cannot tell a lie. I cut the tree. So there's the George Washington statue at Flushing Meadows, which is the Masonic 33.
Gotcha.
He also, cut down a cherry tree. And if you're down near Corlears Park in Manhattan, you have Cherry Street, where George Washington lived. So that brings into play Corlears Park, which is yet another thing. So I think that there's definitely something about lying and nose. And if you take a look at the 1979 subway map and you look at Red Hook, that looks like a hook nose. And maybe the theme of this is that Byron buried it right underneath our noses.
I would like that. That's funny.
So look for no's, maybe no lifeguard on duty at Coney Island, no drinking at some park, no smoking, no shirt, no service. You have
one of the big no's that popped out to me when I was there was no standing. We don't see those signs over where I live. I had never seen a sign that just says no standing. So
Yeah, maybe it's telling you to sit. And then you have the 10 big no's of the commandments.
Mm-hmm.
So there's in Camden Yards at the courthouse, you have Moses there on the wall with the 10 commandments. It's right by Henry Ward Beecher, 2 Ward. Beach, who knows? There could be something at Camden Plaza. Also, when you think about the letter V, it's lowercase. I think that's very specific, a lowercase. So that could be a lowercase court. The painting looks a little bit like a basketball court. There's a bird from the wing taking a 3-point shot. But I think a V could be something to do with courthouse or a tennis court.
Gotcha. Yeah, we don't just have the painting anywhere here in this, do we?
I don't know. I kind of rip it apart a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, like if I click here, because I want to. It's hard to just visualize without seeing the painting. There we go. So at least I could look at the painting here. Yeah, I can. I can see the basketball. Visual reference, I guess.
Yeah. Another thing about like lying is, why is the seagull wearing an eagle mask? Like he's trying to pretend something that it's not.
This is pretty deep stuff. Like, if I was Marty McFly, I'd say, "That's heavy, Doc."
Yeah, I know. I go down rabbit holes, which are a little bit, stretching. But I started thinking about alter egos. About lying about yourself, and then taking some words in the verse, like you have Grey, Grey, which, if you're thinking about the X-Men, is Jean Grey. You have Summer, Scott Summer. You have Colossus.
Oh my gosh! If this is about the X-Men, that would be hilarious. I would love it.
I don't know, but there's also a guy named Gray Owl. He was, quote unquote, a Native American, very famous. And he was lying about being Native American. And he wrote a book, something like In the Shadow, or a book was written about him in the shadows. In the Shadow of Gray Eagle, or Gray Owl. Sorry. Okay. So he's lying. And you have Owl Park in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I see. I don't know if I can zoom in on this. I can't, but I see an owl's head in the robes. That's what I see. It's something I put up on Facebook probably like 3 or 4 years ago. So, but yeah, that's fun. Yeah, Owl's Head Park seems like I think people should give that area kind of more consideration than it gets.
Yeah, and that could be the very beginning. In the Shadow of the Great Giant could be, a giant ego, giant lie.
Yeah, you're just asking people more or less to just open up their mind a little bit to what each of these phrases just can be, more than just the words that are printed in the book.
Yeah, and hey, this could be completely wrong, but I do like a lot of this. I think that Boston has a story as well. I think Boston is all about dentistry. An umpire, when the home plate is dirty, what does he do? He cleans it up. Yep. Like it's a white base. It's right next to the molasses explosion. Sugar's bad for your teeth.
Yeah.
Paul Revere was a dentist, along with being a silversmith. So.
Yeah. Very fun ideas. We didn't get to chat about your very last couple slides, I don't think.
Oh yeah. Oh, the vision test.
Yeah, let's take a look at that.
I don't know where this one's going. But when you think about like the line "cars abound," And you think about the subway, you have the C train, the A train, the B train, all in one line, a blue line. So Cars Abound could bring you all the way to, I'm going to butcher this name, Spoyton Devil. So that's like the northern tip of Manhattan right before you go to Marble Hill. And on the cliffside, you have this giant C that's in like blue for Columbia.
Okay.
So a giant C. So there's some wordplay there you can think of. And I started thinking about, why is there a colorblind test or potentially a colorblind test in the painting? So if you're looking at a color or just an eye test in general, there is the standard one that you would go to for the DMV, but there are some other ones out there as well. One that was created by a Russian guy, Golovin Stisvin, whatever.
Okay.
And then there's also the Landolt C test. So that one's really interesting because all C is in different formations. And I was just playing around with like the clock in the painting and saying, proportionally, do the lines hit anything that might be of interest? And right smack in the middle is a perfect ratio, where that red box is, that red rectangle is. So I'm thinking maybe if we take a look at another eye test chart in that same location, maybe there's something there. So I'm taking a look at the Russian one, and if I use that same proportion, I'm on the letter M. I have no clue what that means, but these are the rabbit holes that I go down.
Well, and then you have what looks like the W on that chart, but it also looks a lot like the columns.
Yeah.
So it could all be tied together. You've definitely presented a different way of looking at this, and I really appreciate it because it gives you more to think about. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong; it just gives you more to think about, and then take from it what you will. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there's a fun thing is like, I always create a story. Think of an idiom, an expression that you use, some sort of folk tale, and say, I'm going to apply this to the verse and see, does it fit? Does it lead me anywhere? For every city.
That's awesome. So like, this is the last slide that you shared. You don't have an X marks a spot anywhere. Do you have an X marks a spot? Where's your favorite spot where you think the thing probably or could be buried is, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah. So the one that I think was like the most solid in terms of an actual spot that I could dig that was within a reasonable like size was actually at Lincoln Center. So if you go to the Damrosch Park, there are all these square planters there. And if you line up those planters with the three dots and the jewel in the painting, there's only one combination in terms of a grid pattern, in terms of perspective of which planter that could be.
Okay.
I didn't even get into like the Lincoln Center area at all in this whole thing.
Yeah, I was thinking, well, where did that come up? It didn't.
Yeah, no, but there's squares in the painting. Simple roots could be a square root. Mm-hmm. That's an option. It's where you would hang an iron curtain.
We know that he liked planters.
Yeah. But unfortunately, they dug all the dirt out of there, or at least they renovated those boxes a bit, so they could have potentially destroyed the casque. So
How deep are they?
They're 36 inches.
Okay. Well, I mean, if they didn't go all the way to the bottom and just replaced, vegetation or whatever, it could still be there.
Yeah. But it's a very tough location. There's very high security, 24-hour surveillance, impossible to dig. I went there a couple of years ago and just sat there and watched all the cops and cameras. Like, it's not good.
Yeah.
The other thing, location-wise, I think that the Henry Bacon Meditation Gardens is a strong possibility.
Okay.
So somewhere around there. Again, I'm looking for like maybe 3 things in a row.
Gotcha.
I don't think that he would have buried it in Jackson Heights, where you have the LaGuardia airplane lights, like the landing strip lights, which are all in different parks. Like they're all these like blank space parks, all in like a row. Please do not dig there, otherwise, I'm sure you'll get killed by someone saying, "Are you trying to crash a plane?"
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, don't do that. So what do you think about the area that I've dug in over at Cannonball Park, the John Paul Jones?
Yeah, so the cannonballs are strong. I mean, it's a strong possibility. You have the Dover statue there. You have the English Channel compared to the Narrows. And then you have this guy, Webb, who was the first person to swim across the English Channel.
Mm-hmm.
And he was on the SS Russia Cunard ship, where he saved a drowning, or he tried to save someone that was drowning. He wasn't able to. And then another interesting character of note that was on the SS Russia was Charles Dickens.
Didn't know that.
When you're traveling to or from New York on the second trip. So
my Russian connection for that is at the end of his life, John Paul Jones was a commander in the Russian Navy. So,
right. Yeah.
Hey, is there anything else you have to, like, you feel like you needs to be out there? I have to start wrapping this up because I have I'm supposed to be in 30 minutes.
Yeah, nothing too shocking or amazing. A lot of it is just other ideas to consider, but I think we can end here.
All right. Hey, well, I just want to say thanks so much, Jeff, for chatting with me today, because you've made me think about a lot of different things, and I'm going to look at New York a little differently going forward, because I'm going to take what you had suggested and just at least consider it for different kinds of possibilities, because I think just thinking outside the box is going to open the next possibility to find another one of these boxes. And there's a reason there's so many of them left in the ground, because it's not as straightforward as a lot of people may think. Maybe 1 or 2 are kind of easier, and maybe those ones have already been found. Maybe there's one more easier one left, but nobody's been finding it. So I think people need to take a little bit closer and deeper look into some of these words. And I like what you did with it. So I want to thank you so much for sharing those ideas with us.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, I would love to chat with you again in the future, and maybe about a different city, because you seem to have at least some kind of you have ideas for all of them, right? So I just want to say thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And anybody that had fun watching this, give us a like, share us with your favorite secret group or different place on the internet. And I just want to say thank you so much for watching us today. I'm going to hit the outro music button, but Jeff, thanks for being here today, man.
Thank you, Dustin. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Secret Podcasque. We are not affiliated with the website 12 Treasures, Pokemon Go, New Coke, The Clapper, MC Hammer, My Sleep Pillow, Reebok Pumps, or anything colored in mauve or fuchsia. Secret Podcasque is full of vitamins, contains no trans fat, has 0 calories, no additives or preservatives. It's all natural, farm to table, and is organically sourced to provide you with the maximum entertainment. Join in the conversation on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/The Secret A Treasure Hunt, all one word.